Yeah, we reject, as I've pointed out to you in that illustration I gave about your initial enthusiasm about hearing God's truth from a universal perspective, you feel joy, excitement, you want to come and hear more, it's fascinating, you're talking about it all the time, you're just enjoying the process of learning, you're not even thinking of yourself in that moment, are you? You're just thinking, wow, this is fantastic, I've got to have more of that. And yet as soon as the personal truth comes along, what happens then? Oh, it'll shut down now, and I don't want to hear that. No, it's not true. This is where we go, right? So can you see we're okay receiving universal truth from God when it does not challenge us emotionally. But as soon as it challenges us emotionally, what do we choose to do? We choose to reject it. And in the rejecting of truth, we're also rejecting love. God's love cannot flow, and it's not God's fault. It's not that God has made some arbitrary decision to make God's love not flow. What God has done is there's laws involved with the flow of love, and that is truth and love are synonymously connected together. They're synonymous with each other. You can't have one without the other in a lot of ways. They're not synonymous in the sense of definition, but they're synonymous in the sense that they must go together in terms of their reception. And it applies in your relationship as much as it applies in the relationship with God. Like, you cannot love your partner if you're not being truthful with your partner. You just cannot. And your partner cannot love you and if they're being untruthful with you. They cannot. It's the same thing applies, right? It's the same principle of how love works. This is a part of your education, to understand that truth and love go hand in hand. They are joined together at the hip. Right? They're like Siamese twins. And you can't separate them, and whenever you attempt to do so, both cannot flow. You won't receive both under those circumstances, right? And I feel that's part of the group feedback I wanted to give, because what I see many of you attempting to do is you firstly long for God's love, you think you're longing for God's love and not receiving it, and then you think it's God's fault. But God's doing everything God possibly can to have this love flow, right? So it's not God's fault. It's something going on inside of you where you're rejecting the Siamese twins. The two things that go together, either truth or love, you're rejecting one or the other of them. That's what you're doing. And why do we do it? Because we have emotional justifications for the rejection of them. That's why we do it. We feel it's wrong, or we feel we shouldn't have to, or we feel angry, or we feel justified, or we feel too hurt or ashamed to feel the hurt and ashamed, or we feel that we can't cope with our emotions. We have a whole set of other beliefs, but whatever they are, they're just the rejection of truth. And as we're rejecting truth, we're rejecting love. Love cannot flow. And it's very, very helpful for you to understand this in your relationship with God, because it's also going to be very helpful for you to understand it in your relationship with your other half. You cannot join with your soulmate without entering the same kind of relationship. You can't. So whatever you learn with God helps you with your relationship with your other half too, right? And what God's trying to teach you is that actually the way God's designed the universe is that love and truth go hand in hand, and they cannot be separated, and if you attempt to separate them, both of them cannot exist. And what you're trying to do is separate them and still get loved. And it will not happen. It cannot happen. Love and truth have to be together in order for you to be loved. And when you think about it, it's such a powerful thing to know, because it's the secret to knowing all truth as well. Isn't that wonderful? Not only do you get to be loved, but also you get to have all this lovely truth enter your soul while you're being loved. Isn't that a wonderful blessing of being loved? All the things you've ever wanted to know about the universe, about your playground, they're all going to be presented to you if you allow the flow of both, right? But as soon as you attempt this separation, as soon as you want love to have some kind of addiction in it, you know, as soon as you want to be loved in your facade, as soon as you want to have love even though you're doing a lot of unloving things to others or painful things to others, now you've separated truth and love. Now both cannot exist. Both cannot flow. Right? So that's a very harmful thing to do to yourself. So that's the thing I wanted to remind you of in this sort of group truth session. And if you can remember it, it'll be a very powerful assistance to your future growth. Right? Because you'll realise that every time you're not receiving love, it's probably because either you're blocked to the reception of love, like we discussed with Elvira, or you're blocked to the reception of truth. Right? Or both. And then it's just a matter of looking at what inside of you causes you to have these blockages. Right? This is what a self-responsible being will do. They'll examine themselves to find out the reason why. And they won't blame God for something that's not under God's control. God gave you free will, this gift of will. It's under your control. You are the only person who can prevent the flow of God's love into your soul. No one else can prevent it. No spirit can prevent it. God won't prevent it. You're the only person who can prevent it. And we prevent it daily, hourly, every minute of the day. Generally, we prevent it by not addressing some things, by particularly not addressing the issues of truth, or not addressing the issues of why we want to reject love.